This is Ralph Zuranski. I'm on the phone with Tom Beal. He's one of the leaders in Internet marketing, and just recently started working with Mike Vilsame in the Butterfly Marketing Program. I've seen Tom at quite a few of the Internet marketing seminars, and he's had an opportunity to work with a lot of leaders in the industry, and being a leader himself, it's just really a pleasure to talk with him today. How are you doing today, Tom?
Doing fantastic, Ralph. I feel honored to be speaking with you today and looking forward to this conversation.
Well, I know you're a real hero. You're actually a warrior on the front lines. You were a Marine, weren't you? Could you tell us a little bit about your life?
Sure. Semper Fi. That's the always faithful Marine slogan there. But a little bit about myself, Ralph. I guess it starts back being born teenagers. I was born to a 17-year-old mother and a 19-year-old father, and grew up around some adversities. 4 divorces and 6 marriages between my 2 parents. Went to 9 different schools by 8th grade in 2 separate states, and the whole list of other fun things that occurred, the alcoholism, abuse, neglect, on welfare as a child. Yet through that was able to become a national bicycle champion, winning nationals in 1989 in now what's called X Games, so doing tricks on bikes. And then from there, went to college to wrestle, ended up hanging out with the wrong crowd, dropped out of college, and then found myself at Parris Island Marine Corps boot camp. And from there, figured out that system and ended up graduating the #1 honor graduate from boot camp, and then going on to attain some good achievements in the Marine Corps in the 4 years that I spent there. I was able to earn 3 meritorious promotions in the 4 years, and also had a stint as an all-Marine wrestler down in Quantico, Virginia. And after the 4 years was up, I just felt that I had a little more to accomplish in my life, so I left the Marine Corps and then ventured into sales. And in sales, similar to Marine Corps boot camp, I kind of figured out the system and how to win, and I ended up earning a #1 spot in 5 sales organizations. And then from there went on to publish a book called the North Carolina Home Book that was down in Charlotte, North Carolina. And it was a resource for anybody who was looking to build or remodel their $1 million plus home in the Charlotte, Greensboro, or Raleigh-Durham area. That was a fun project. I had a good time doing that. And then heard about Internet marketing in 2001. The events of September 11th, 2001, to be precise, is what triggered in me. It was time to start fulfilling the answers to questions that people had always asked me, namely, how do you do it? You know, whether it's the Marine Corps, whether it was the sales organizations that I rose to the top, or publishing the book, it seems that I was able to, in a short time, reach the top of whatever I chose to get into. And I remember sitting on 77 South when I was hearing on the radio what was occurring that morning, September 11th, and it hit me that now is the time to take the years of studying Tony Robbins and Brian Tracy and the whole gamut of personal and professional development experts, and my own successes and my own stories, and start sharing it with people to let them know that it doesn't matter where they came from or where they are right now. There are steps that they can take to fulfill their dreams and desires.
Wow,
so it was there, yeah.
That's an amazing story.
Thank you. And it was there that I started asking myself questions. And if you're listening to this call right now, I think, as Mark Victor Hansen put in his book, The Aladdin Factor, is if the proper questions that you ask yourself, your mind and the universe as a whole will give you the answers. So the more you fine-tune your questions, the more you'll fine-tune your life. So the question I asked myself was, in all those unrelated fields, bike riding, Marine Corps, wrestling, and all the sales fields, how did I do it? What steps did I apply in each of those unrelated areas that allowed me to go in with no knowledge, little or no knowledge, and then become #1 in a very short time? And my mind responded with an answer that I didn't like. And it responded with too many different scenarios. What I did in the Marine Corps was different from what I did while riding bikes, and it was different from what I did in each of those unrelated sales fields. So I asked a better question. And once again, I jot that note down. Ask yourself better questions. I said, if I had to narrow it down to 5 things that I applied in all those unrelated areas, what would they be? Immediately, my mind began to respond. And from all the years of studying the Napoleon Hill, the 17 principles of success he shares, the Tony Robbins, the Jim Rohns, the Brian Tracys, all the things that I put into my mind and all the experiences that I've had, I was able to create what I call the success magnet system. And it's simply 5 steps, none more important than the other, that have allowed me to overcome the adversity and reach greatness in those unrelated areas in my life. And that's my passion, to share with people these 5 steps, the Success Magnet System, to assist them in understanding that they can take their life to accomplish their dreams just by applying these 5 steps.
What are those 5 steps?
That's a great question. The suspense is coming to fruition here. The 5 steps, and I do a whole presentation. It's an hour-long presentation, but I'll give you the 5 steps right off the bat. First is vision. Second is belief. Third, identify and align. Fourth, commitment to action. And 5, what I call the secret step, is have fun.
Wow.
And those 5 steps allowed me to overcome the rough childhood, reach level of success in wrestling, and then go on to the Marine Corps and have that success in the bicycling and all that fun stuff. Those are the 5 universal principles that allowed me to overcome the adversity and reach the top in those fields.
Wow, that's amazing, Tom. I've got some good questions for you also.
Oh, cool.
What is the worthy ideal you are pursuing with honesty and integrity according to the Napoleon Hill model?
The best way for me to answer that is what I stated earlier, is to assist people in understanding it doesn't matter where they came from or where they are now. There are steps they can take to reach their destiny.
What is the dream or vision that sets the course of your life?
Dream or vision is really to impact children that are going through rough times. Because it's very clear in my mind the difficulties and the experiences that I had as a child, and at times thinking that I was alone and thinking I had no one to go to, and as you're doing in Search of Heroes, to give people some heroes, to give people some mentors they can look to in times of trouble, in times of difficulty, and whether it's online, whether it's a toll-free number, whether it's live operators, some type of 24-hour support system for most importantly, in my mind, children that are going through difficult times. Because as a child, I know that in today's times, as it's been always, the decisions that they make could impact the rest of their lives. If they're going to make very important decisions, they can either lead them towards their dreams or away from their dreams.
Boy, that is so true. How important is it to stay focused on your primary goal?
Focus is very important. In all those stories that I've shared, in bicycling, for example, I lived, breathed, and walked, talked, everything I did revolved around bicycling. Hence, I was able to go from not knowing how to do a single trick, like you see on the X Games, to becoming a national champion within 3 years. It's that focus that allows you to reach the top in your game. For a while, I wanted to be everything to everybody, and then I started to really understand and appreciate the power of focus, and like a laser beam, the more you can focus, and instead of trying to be everything, but be just the best that you can in that one particular area, that's when you will pull yourself much farther, much more quickly, instead of being distracted by other things. Focus is very important.
Do you follow your hunches and intuition?
Yes, I do. There's a fun story here. When I mentioned I dropped out of college, partied too much and went there for the wrong reasons. I was 17 years old in college, ended up dropping out, and for the first time my mother and I agreed, and she agreed she was kicking me out, and I agreed I was leaving. So that was our mutual agreement. And I got in my car. It was an 82 Volkswagen Rabbit with 180,000 miles, and I had $60 to my name. I was 18 years old. And the intuition or hunch that I had, I got in my car, I said, I've really got nowhere to go. I can't stay here, and I really have nowhere local that I can go. And my intuition, my gut said, drive to New York City. Now, keep in mind, I didn't know anybody in New York City. I didn't have any destination, but I said, okay. I followed my gut. I followed my intuition. And in this Volkswagen Rabbit, I drove the 6-hour trip. I left my house at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and arrived in Manhattan, not knowing the exact directions, but just knowing that that's where my gut was telling me at 3 in the morning. The whole way there, I didn't have a radio. And at this time, I didn't have much of a spiritual background or any upbringing in the church or anything like that. But on the 6-hour drive, I said, you know what, God? It's me and you. I said, I don't know why I'm going to New York City. I don't know where I'm going to stay when I get there. I don't know what I'm going to do. If I'm going to have to live in this car, if that's how you have it in the cars for me, that's what I'll do. If you want me living on the street, that's what I'll do. If I'm supposed to die in New York City, that's what I'll do. I'm just going there on intuition, on my gut. That's where I feel I need to be going.
Wow.
So I did that, and I talked for 6 hours to nobody but the universe, to God, and it was in His hands. At 3 in the morning, I get to Manhattan. I'd never, I'd been there like once before. Didn't know where I was going. I just was going like from the high numbers, like 180s, down into the lower numbers. And on the right-hand side, I saw a Chinese restaurant. I said, well, I got nowhere to go. It's 3 in the morning. I'll just pull in and have a little bite to eat. Didn't have much money, so at the same time, when I walked in, I looked at my money. I had $60, well, minus some gas I had to pay. It was a diesel Rabbit, by the way. So the waitress came, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to have a bowl of rice. And she looked at me and said, we have no rice. And like a movie, I looked around. I looked my head around. I said, this is a Chinese restaurant, right? You don't have any rice. That's what you do, right? She's like, yeah, we're out of rice. Anything else? I said, well, I guess not. I said, is there a restroom I can use? She said, yeah. She pointed me to the restroom. I washed my hands, splashed some water on my face, went back in my car, went 1 block, came to a red light. At 3 in the morning, my ex-stepfather was walking across that intersection.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I couldn't believe it. I rolled my window down, yelling out, hey, Cliff, Cliff. And I'm yelling out, and he keeps walking. And I yell his full name out, and he turns around. He's like, what the heck are you doing down here? I said, what the heck are you doing walking the streets at 3 in the morning? Now, keep in mind, I hadn't seen Cliff, my ex-stepfather, in a couple of years. Mm-hmm. Had no clue he was in New York, nonetheless, New York City. But the circumstances that led to that, he said, well, where are you staying? I said, you're looking at it. I just left the house, me and my mom got in a fight, and, I'm here. He said, you're staying in your car? I said, well, he's like, no, you're not. You're staying in my house. I got a place right around the corner. So I stayed with him for 3 months in Manhattan. So that is a long-winded answer to, do I follow my gut? Do I follow my intuition? And that's a story from a few years ago, obviously, but I do feel strongly that when you have that desire, when you have that burning desire, that this is what you're supposed to do, to take that step boldly and just one step after the next.
Boy, that's almost a miracle.
It is. I do consider it a miracle for sure.
Well, what specific philosophy or philosophies guide your life and your decisions?
In the Marine Corps, I learned 14 principles of leadership. And real quickly, here they are. Judgment, justice, decisiveness, integrity, tact, initiative, enthusiasm, bearing, unselfishness, courage, knowledge, loyalty, and endurance. And that's a quick rundown of those 14 traits, but I feel as long as I'm doing the best that I know how today, and I can do a little bit better tomorrow, that's all I can ask for. Now, I try to do everything honestly and ethically. I try not to cross any of those lines. In my mind, I know what's right, what's not, and I try to do the best that I can to do my best every single day. And my goal is to be a little bit better tomorrow than I am today.
Well, that's a good motto. What is your perspective on goodness, ethics, and moral behavior?
I feel that every person has an inner thermometer of what's good and what's bad, what's right and what's wrong. But I also feel and know that we also choose whether we want to partake in things that are good or things that are bad, things that are right or things that are wrong. And it all boils down to the power of choice. And that's where, no matter where you are in your life, you can choose to continue walking that path or choose to take a different route.
Mm-hmm. Well, what place does the power of prayer have in your life? I
pray pretty much all day long. I have inner talk, and I always am communicating and just trying to be in touch with myself and with God, with the universe. And while I'm driving, I'll have conversations, and while I'm sitting, I'll try to have conversations. I feel it's a very, very important part of my life.
Mm-hmm. Well, what principles are you willing to sacrifice your life for? You were a Marine, so obviously you're willing to sacrifice your life for our country.
Yes.
Is there any other things that you're willing to sacrifice your life for?
Right. What's right?
Yeah.
I've actually I have a scar on my knee and a scar on my eye. Mike Tyson had a comeback fight after getting out of prison while I was in the Marine Corps, and we had a party at our apartment. And when we went outside, there was a group of people because he fought McNeely. And I remember it because there was an event that occurred afterwards I'm leading up to. So he knocked McNeely out very quickly. So the fight had a lot of hubbub about, a lot of buzz leading up to it, and then Mike Tyson knocked out McNeely very quickly. And, the party ended. We went out to our car, and there was several Marines and a couple of their wives. There was a group of other people who were apparently not satisfied with the ending of the fight, so they all circled up. This is from a different apartment, and they were having, like, Ultimate Fighting Championship and out there fighting one another. So it happened to be right near our car.
Wow.
And so we're walking by, and then all of a sudden they stopped fighting, and they started picking on us. You guys think you're tough? And they started talking to us. And they, no, we're all cool. Everything's good. But then one of them pushed my friend's wife.
Really?
And, without even thinking, I just grabbed that guy, and, my wrestling came out and took him down. What I didn't think was that we were outnumbered at least 5-1.
Oh, my.
So what I would sacrifice, I would stand up for what is right. And, if I happen to have surgery a couple times afterwards, so be it. I was kicked in the head and, had to have 7 stitches in the eye and had to have knee surgery and all that fun stuff. But what's right is right. The guy chose to push my friend's wife. And, I stick up for what's right.
Yeah.
Boy, I've since hung up my, there was a lot of testosterone going on back in those years, so since hung up my fighting shoes, but I tried talking things out, but I will, I'm able to communicate hopefully a little better than choosing physical aspects like that, but I will not sit back and keep my tongue tied if someone is doing wrong to someone else.
Yeah.
We were at a restaurant, and someone was actually just recently flying around to one of the seminars I saw yet. I'm in the back of the plane, and one airport was shut down, Chicago O'Hare, and this guy was just going off on the stewardess, and saying how this is unacceptable, that's why your airline's going out of business, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, sir, I apologize, it's out of my control, and he's going off. And he's like, I'm so disgusted with this. I said, sir, I'm disgusted with the way you're talking to this stewardess. I said, you need to put yourself in check here and give her some appreciation. And, and his wife agreed. So the guy, I'm just not the type to sit by. If someone's being treated wrongly, I will communicate that.
Yeah, that's really a great attribute to have. I wish more people would do that.
Right.
Are your goals consistent with your beliefs?
100%. Yeah. I feel to achieve any greatness, to achieve any goal, you need to be congruent. You need to be congruent with your beliefs. Your goals need to be very congruent with your beliefs in order to fulfill them. Is my belief.
Are your actions consistent with your beliefs?
Yes, and I feel until, as a child and growing up, there were times that my walk didn't equal my talk didn't equal my walk, or vice versa. But I feel the people that you see achieving great results, there's still exceptions to the rule, but a majority, by far, people's walk equals their talk. And I feel that's a goal, that to be congruent, you need to have your thoughts, your words, and your actions congruent with the beliefs that you have internally.
Is it valuable to have highly charged emotions about achieving your goals?
Emotions are extremely vital to achieving your success, any success. There's a movie out now that if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it. Matter of fact, it should almost be required, in my opinion, for teenagers, for kids growing up, and adults to watch. What is the Secret.tv? What is the Secret.tv? And that's a awesome documentary. Have you seen that yet, Ralph?
I haven't. You recommended it to me, and I haven't had a chance because I was at Lori Morgan's speed copywriting seminar this weekend. Okay.
Well, I feel it's a must-see for everybody that's serious about achieving any type of goals. And what it talks about is the secret, obviously. And, when Dr. Joe Vitale was telling me about this on the cruise last November, he and I were on, and a few other marketers, I asked, he wouldn't tell us what the secret was. He wouldn't tell us what the movie was. I said, I know what the secret is. The secret is, from Earl Nightingale, he had the strangest secret in the world, is we become what we think about most of the time, meaning the thought that is most in your mind is something that you will fulfill, you will manifest. And that's exactly what it's about, but it goes into more detail about what's called the attractor factor, which is a book by Dr. Joe Vitale, the attractor factor. So your thoughts, mixed with emotions, mixed with enthusiasm, produces the end result that you'll manifest into reality. Because you can have a thought, but if you don't have emotions to back that thought, it's like an impotent thought. You need to have that potency by having the emotions to back it up. And that's where you will begin to see that you become what you think about most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's useful to take a positive view of setbacks, misfortunes, and mistakes?
Oh, there's a quote from Napoleon Hill that says, "Every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit." And those aren't comforting words when you're going through adversity. They aren't even comforting to me, and I live by that quote. But as I described, you heard some adversity that I went through. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. As a child, I thought I was the only one going through that.
Yep.
As we grow up, we notice that everybody has that type of stuff. Guess what? There's no such thing as a functional family. They're all dysfunctional. Mm-hmm. Everybody has their problems. And now working with best-selling authors, working with top, athletes, I'm working with the cream of the crop. And I even asked an NFL Hall of Fame quarterback, just because you reach that success, does that mean you don't have any problems? And he laughed. No problems. His son just died at 8 years old because of a terminal illness.
Mm-hmm.
Try handling that problem.
Yeah.
Your problems, and I'm looking at one of the people I'm working with here, Jason Dinner. He said something that was very true. If you're in a big room with all these people and everyone throws their problems in a big pile, you're going to want to get your problem out because you don't want what the other people are going through.
Boy, isn't that true?
and until you put it right,
that's the truth.
Until you put it in perspective and just recognize, hey, I'm going to do the best that I can with the circumstances that I'm going through right now. That's all I can do. And guess what? There's two things you can worry about. You can worry about things that you can control or things you can't control. Well, if you're worried about something you can control it and don't worry about it. If you're worried about something you can't control, what's the point in worrying because you can't control it?
Boy, isn't that true? That is just absolutely the truth.
So the point is, if that doesn't make sense to you, go get a book by Dale Carnegie, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Mm-hmm. How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Mm-hmm. Dale Carnegie wrote that in the early 1900s because he had a lot of people coming to him that just had tremendous worry problems. And if you look at the society today, look at all the people on these pills to diminish the worry that they have. Yep. I recommend reading that book, and you'll understand there's two things to worry about, and neither one of them are worth worrying about.
Well, that's funny that you would say that because I have that book sitting right on my desk.
It's an awesome book. That and How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah, it's sitting right underneath that.
Yeah, and that book, you can get the double book by Dale Carnegie that has both of those in it. How to Stop Worrying and Start Living and How to Win Friends and Influence People. Those should also be recommended learning material for anybody who's serious about becoming the best that they can be in this life, this brief time that we're here.
Well, it's funny, too, because when Napoleon Hill was asking people the stories of their lives and how they became successful based on the Dale Carnegie secret that Dale shared with them, Napoleon Hill believed that if the secrets of Dale Carnegie were taught to young people in school, that they could cut the time that they were in school by half.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. It's just incredible that they haven't done that, and our school system is in such disarray now.
When I didn't have much, but I was a student of life. I was going to the library, and you can go to the library for free, but unfortunately only a few percent, like 3% of the people in the whole U.S. population has library cards. But you can get all this information for free. You don't need anything. There's stories of Og Mandino who was living on the bench, the park bench, but went to the library and started studying and ended up becoming a multimillionaire many times over from learning it. If you want success, study success. If you want happiness, study happiness. If you don't want to worry, study how not to worry.
Yeah. Well, isn't that funny how people like yourself and myself, too, that we didn't really have any real leaders in our lives or people that could inspire us, and so we turned to books. And that seems to be the common story of a lot of the Internet heroes that I've interviewed.
And you can have, just like Napoleon Hill had his virtual mastermind. He had a mastermind with, all the bigwigs, F.W. Woolworth, Henry Ford. I mean, you can have all these people virtually, Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. And you can consult. And that's, we have bands that you see people wearing today, WWJD, What Would Jesus Do? Yeah. Well, some people can't grasp that, but what would Abraham Lincoln do? What would your role model do in this situation?
Yeah. Well, that's so true. Well, how important is it to have optimism?
Oh, optimism, man. Life it'll get you down if you read the papers and you watch the news. You'll think the sky is falling. I mean, Chicken Little was a movie that just came out in cartoon, But I'll tell you what, you watch the news and you read the paper, you'll think the sky is falling and everybody's bad, everyone's out to get you, and the life, you lock yourself in a room.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? You got to live boldly. Stuff's going to happen, but back to that attractor factor. And here's something I personally, internally, I know that there's conspiracy.
Yep.
Everything is conspiring to help me, to assist me in accomplishing all my goals and attract everything that I desire.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a spin. So yeah, there's a conspiracy, but it's a positive one. Everything is working exactly the way it needs to assist me in fulfilling the dreams and desires that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I may not understand why certain things happen, but I know that all things work for good.
Yeah.
And there's certain times when I can't interpret or understand why bad. My friend Jim Kelly, his son passed away 8 years old and was born with a life-threatening illness.
Mm-hmm.
Why does that happen? And Jim even says, "Why me?" I go to church. I'm a good guy. Why me? Well, there's been studies in the short 8 years that Hunter was alive. That disease has gone thousands of times. It's going to save thousands of lives and lives of kids that haven't been born yet.
Mm-hmm.
That 8-year-old life impacted more lives than most people who live 100 years old.
Yeah. Boy, that's amazing. One of my dear friends, Robert Channing, he's one of the world's greatest mind readers and mental motivators.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the people that I interviewed and one of the spokespeople for the Heroes program. His six-month-old son died right around the first of the year.
Yep.
And something like that happens, you just ask yourself, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, and you know what? There's things that we aren't meant to know and we can't understand. All we know is, what can we do? Do the best that you can do. And if you do the best that you can do, and everybody takes that and takes upon themselves to do the best that they can, guess what? The world's problems would kind of dissipate. There wouldn't be any problem, Everybody trying to be the best they can, that's all we can be.
Yeah.
Can't be anything other than that.
Boy, that's so true. Well, Tom, do you maintain a sense of humor in the face of serious problems?
You have to. At least I have to. I choose to. In some people, because guess what? I still, I have the optimism, I have positive things, but there's things that other people would interpret as bad things happening. Mm-hmm. And I just say, hey, you know what? Wow, I didn't see that one coming. Wow. Mm-hmm. But you have to laugh, and you have to, as I mentioned in the fifth step, you have to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And when you enjoy and you're doing what you love, there's going to be things that other people would interpret as problems and things like that. But they're all challenges. They're all it makes life more exciting. And the more you progress up that level of consciousness, the more other people would see these problems get bigger.
Mm-hmm.
But your capabilities to handle them are more so. If I was up to bat and there was a Major League Baseball pitcher pitching to me, I'd strike out for sure, if not be shaking and peeing my pants, because that'd be scary.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't just jump from not knowing anything to jumping up to the major leagues. You have progressive steps. Just like school has first, second, third, fourth, you graduate to different levels of how you can handle communication skills, how you can handle adversities. And you will never be given a Major League Baseball pitcher problem if you're only in the minor leagues, or you're only at T-ball level. Mm-hmm. You're only given the challenges and obstacles that you're capable of handling in your life. Sometimes I feel, wait a minute, this is a major league pitch and I'm not ready for it, but it wouldn't be happening if I wasn't ready for it.
Don't you think that sometimes we get major league pitching and it's a way of just humbling us and also showing us what doesn't work?
Oh, yeah. I mean, as we're speaking right now, and I'm going to share some personal things, and there's a lot of people that already know, but my wife and I have been married for 5 years, but we're currently separated right now. But guess what? You've been talking with me for how long, and you can tell I still have optimism, I still have happiness. Well, here's my belief on that. I know that everything's going to work out exactly the way it needs to work out. I don't know what the end result's going to be, but I know it's going to work out exactly the way it needs to.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that. My wife and I have been going through some pretty hard times taking care of my mom and dad, who both had catastrophic illnesses, and there's no time for ourselves. And,
Yeah. Well, here's a little history. My wife and I have been married 5 years now, but on July 10th, her father passed away. July 13th, my wife is speaking, not this past July, this is 5 years ago, 2001. Or, I'm sorry, 2002. July 10th, 2002, her father passed away. July 13th, she spoke at his funeral. July 20th, at the same church, we had our wedding, a Greek wedding.
Man, wow. So
that just puts things in perspective. I mean, and I had a conversation with her father prior to saying, look, man, this wedding is ridiculous at this time. And he told me, Tom, I don't care if I die.
Wow. Gee.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it puts things in perspective.
Yes, it does. You never know when you're going to live or die. One of my dear friends, one of the first heroes in my heroes program, he sent his son to be my first hero in training. He just died over the weekend of a heart attack.
Yep.
And you never know the day or the time.
And speaking of that, I mean, let's talk about something that you may or may not know, Ralph. September 11th, 1998, I was in a car wreck. My car rolled 4 times. I was ejected from the sunroof.
Oh, man.
And laid there with severe head trauma and had one of the near-death experiences.
Mm.
And, and laying there, and the car wreck was about 10 p.m., and I know that time, severe head trauma, it's just a miracle that I lived through it.
Mm-hmm.
But laying there, time was like, wait a minute, no one's showing up. And then it was hitting me. I said, I'm going to die here in this field. Because I was off the field, and during the roll, my battery flew out, so the car was just laying in this field way off the road, and people were driving by. No one knew that someone was laying there dying.
Wow.
So, and it hit me. I said, wow, this is how it's going to end. And next thing you know, I'm laying there, and I see someone in a field, and I'm up in the air. I'm like, who's that? And I focus in, and I'm like, that's me. And then next thing you know, I'm pulled up into the sky, and it's just like you see on TV, the bright lights.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there, and I'm really confused. And I'm trying to figure out what's happening. And then someone comes up and puts their arm around me, and it's just so comforting, and you just feel like everything's okay. And then we turn around, and we're facing this big, huge door. And we start walking towards this door, and I stop. And I'm shaking my head, and I stop. I said, this isn't how it's supposed to end. I know you had more for me to accomplish. Send me back. Next thing you know, I woke up. I'd been mercy flighted, which is a helicopter lift. So eventually, about a couple hours later, they got there. Helicopter lifted me to a hospital. I woke up with a respirator breathing for me in intensive care, and was in the hospital for just less than a week. And the doctors were telling me and my family, Tom will never walk and talk again properly. And I wouldn't accept that. And the doctors were getting real upset because I said, no, I'm walking out of here. They said, and they had a meeting with my family and said, we're really upset, or Tom's not understanding the fact that he may never walk or talk again properly the rest of his life. And my family sat down with me, Tom, this is serious. You may not, and I said, I'm walking out of here. The best that I could. I couldn't even, I had to learn to speak and everything, but there's a whole weird story behind all that. You think, like, I'd say I'm going to walk out of here, but cat, red, blue car would come out of my mouth or something. It was really weird. So I checked myself out. I signed a whole bunch of release papers against doctor orders and left the hospital because they were trying to tell me that I would never walk or talk again, and I did not want to hear that.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I didn't hear that because I am walking and talking. And there was a couple years my leg dragged. I had what was called drop foot, and they never knew when that nerve damage would go away, if it would. But now I can walk. You've seen me, Ralph. I walk and talk.
Yeah, you do.
I wrestled Russell Brunson a couple times ago. I ended up going back and winning a couple wrestling tournaments after that car wreck.
That is amazing. Well, how do you invest time in daydreaming about what your life will be like when you want to attain your goals? Obviously, when you're in that particular type of situation, you had to dream about what you wanted your life to be, didn't you?
Absolutely, and I'm living my dream right now. I'm doing exactly what I've dreamed, and it doesn't happen overnight. But when you have that, and it's a reality, no matter what situation you're in, and I've already envisioned this. When people ask me, Tom, when were you successful? I was successful when I was homeless. I was successful when I was living in my car. I was successful when I didn't have but $60 in my pocket. I've been successful. It's just a matter of the material world manifesting around to make that a reality in this time. It's just a time difference.
What do you think that goes back to having a worthy ideal as expressed by Earl Nightingale?
100%.
And your success
100%.
every day.
Yeah. And I spend most of my time daydreaming because my life right now is a daydream. Even though I'm still having tremendous adversities, what other people still look at me and say, Tom, how can you be happy? It's difficult, but life is from that experience I had, I truly feel that I'm doing the best I can, and I have a second chance right now. This is my time. I'm living life full steam ahead, taking one bold step after the next, and enjoying every step, and ethically and honestly.
Well, do you feel it's important to make positive statements about yourself and the type of person you are and your goals?
Yes. Matter of fact, go to zigziglar.com, ziglar.com. He has a thing in there that you can download as a little PDF report that I'd suggest you print out, and it's an affirmation, and it says a life-changing process, which it is. Mm-hmm. And what you find, and I just took it out of my wallet, and I go through spurts where I'll read it for months. I'll read it in the morning, read it in the evening. But it talks about I am, and it lists all these positive attributes. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, when you're not congruent with them, it's hard for you to look yourself in the eye in the mirror while you're reading it, saying, I'm not. There's a time when it says in there, I am sober. Yeah. There was a time in my life I wasn't sober. Mm-hmm. And if you're incongruent with it, your mind, it's weird how your mind is a self-regulator. Mm-hmm. But guess what? When you start reading those affirmations, you will take on all those traits and characteristics. I just feel that's a natural law. If you can boldly state those, looking at yourself in the mirror, you will attain those. I'm timely. I am responsible. You will pick up all those positive attributes and begin living them, and you will be the embodiment of them.
Well, that's funny you'd say that, because I did that exact same thing, and I've taken them and I've added a lot more of the positive affirmations about my life. That is the foundation of what I do, and I read it every morning, the first thing I do when I wake up.
You have that same one, right? The life-changing experience?
Yeah, I've added a lot to it, too.
Me too. And that's the great part, because whatever you will state, it's amazing. And the funny part, going back to Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill was told by Andrew Carnegie to tell him this one statement. Andrew Carnegie, I'm not only going to equal your accomplishments, but I'm going to surpass your accomplishments. This was back when Andrew Carnegie was the only billionaire on the planet. And guess what? Napoleon Hill says there was a time that I couldn't look myself in the mirror. I was laughing. I had my fingers crossed. I was like, who am I kidding? He's the billionaire. I will never equal his accomplishments. But he ended up believing it, and guess what? He's created more millionaires, and will continue to this day. He passed away in 73 or something like that. Yeah. There's future generations that he'll still create millionaires, and he passed away a couple generations ago.
Well, it's funny. His whole program, Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale's, are based on Dale Carnegie's secret, and that's the foundation of the Heroes program, to help young people realize that at an early age, that they can be incredibly successful if they just know to have a worthy ideal and know the secret of Dale Carnegie. Do you take the time out of your day to feed your subconscious positive thoughts about you, your goals, and your dreams?
Yes. Through self-talk, through reading the proper material, through watching things like whatisthesecret.tv, through I'm looking at the Library of Success I have over here. I'm looking at this one. You may or may not have heard or seen this. It's called The Master Key to Success. It was one of the first Nightingale Conant products. It's actually a 2 VHS tape. It's over 3 hours of Napoleon Hill sitting there talking in black and white as if you're sitting at his desk. He said, pleasure to see you today. Please be seated. And talks to you as if you're sitting across the desk from Napoleon Hill. So things like that. And I'm looking, the Brian Tracy's, the Jim Rohns, the Tony Robbins, and attending live events, getting around people who are like-minded. Because you heard my one trait, identify and align. Find someone who's doing what you desire to accomplish and do your best to get close to them. Guess what? You can do that through reading books, through listening to tapes, through watching videos, and more importantly, going to live events and meeting with these people one-on-one. I've been able to meet and work with some of my heroes, and that has been, it's the quickest way to get pulled from where you are to where you want to be.
Well, that's so true. Well, how much courage does it take to pursue new ideas? I know a lot of people are paralyzed by fear and the fear of failure. How much courage does it take to pursue new ideas?
It's like any muscle, or it's like a muscle. The more you work it out, the more you're going to be able, the more easily it will come to you. In the beginning, as in anything, in the beginning when we had to learn how to pedal a bike, it was a very difficult task. When we learned how to walk, it was a very difficult task. But the more you do it, the more you get used to it. You need to exercise that muscle, and first you need to exercise your power of choice, your power of decision. And then from there, once you get that muscle worked up and you can choose quickly, you can choose correctly, and you can decide on good manners fast, then you will also be able to take action upon your ideas. And it's just a matter of, everybody has good ideas. Everybody listening to this probably has had many $1 million or plus ideas. The fact of the matter is, not many of them have taken action upon it. So it's a matter of choosing. It's a matter of narrowing it down. You talked about focus. Taking all your ideas, what's the most fulfilling and satisfying one that you could choose to become real? Act as if it's real already, and then just take steps to make it and implement it.
Yeah, that's important to just concentrate on one, isn't it?
Right.
Well, were you willing to experience discomfort in the pursuit of your dream? I know that you've gone through some pretty great trials and tribulations. How important is it to be willing to experience discomfort in the pursuit of your dream?
Discomfort. It's I do things. I'll put myself in discomfort just because the more you become comfortable, I feel the less you're moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not uncomfortable many times a week, your life is too complacent, and you're not going to reach great things. I think I deal with top people. I deal with Hall of Fame quarterbacks. I deal with movie stars. I deal with singers. I deal with top marketers. They all do things. Well, guess what? Here's the thing. Not everything works for all these people.
Mm-hmm.
They make mistakes. They have things that fail,
mm-hmm.
but they don't quit. They just keep going. Okay, that one didn't work out. What can I learn from it? How can I do it better? How can I get better results?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You heard about all my accomplishments. We don't have time to go through all the failures. That would take 3-4 days, if not 3-4 weeks.
Boy,
I'm just too darn stubborn to quit.
Uh-huh.
So put yourself out there. Do the more uncomfortable you can put yourself in, obviously ethically and honest.
Uh-huh.
Following all those proper guidelines. You'll get used to it. You'll work your muscles
mm-hmm.
up, and then you'll be able to choose more wisely.
Yeah.
On projects that you just know. A couple years ago, you may have taken that project on, but now it's not congruent with where you want to go, so you turn it down.
No, that's amazing. Well, is it beneficial to make decisions quickly?
Oh, 100%. Napoleon Hill had an egg timer to answer the question of whether he was willing to pursue the study of success for 20 years, not compensated by the richest man in the world. That doesn't sound like a pretty logical choice to make, mm-hmm. but he took it on.
Mm-hmm.
And he had an egg timer. Little did he know, he found out later that Andrew Carnegie had, as soon as he posed the question to him,
mm-hmm.
after a couple days of downloading what this would require and how Andrew was going to make the correct contacts,
mm-hmm.
He had an egg timer. And if he wasn't decisive, and a lot of people said, well, let me check with my wife, let me do this, let
mm-hmm.
me do that.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't make the cut. You have to be decisive.
Yeah.
Based upon, you have to have full information. Once you have full information, make up your mind, yes or no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The more you can work that muscle of decision-making, the more quickly you will rise to the top.
Mm-hmm. Well, are you slow to revise or reverse an important decision that you've made?
It changes with information. You can make, for instance, I can make a decision right now based upon the information that I have and believe it wholeheartedly, would die for that decision, but then new information comes up. If new information comes up that turns the tables on it, you can decide again,
mm-hmm.
choose differently. But, obviously for beliefs, ethics and honesty and all that stuff, that you have to have the foundation built on those.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, as long as new information arises, I'm open to hear. If I'm walking this way and someone's telling me I could walk this way and get different results or whatever,
mm-hmm.
I'm willing to hear them. But based upon that, I can choose to continue walking the direction I'm in or choose to go off a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, how are you able to overcome your doubts and fears? I know that everybody has doubts and fears, and I'm sure you have had your share and even have them today. How do you overcome them?
How do I overcome fear? I go back to that statement about the two things to worry about. Things I can control and things I can't control. If I'm doubtful or fearful over something, what information is making that doubt or fear?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something I control or something I can't control? And what can I do to overcome it? But
mm-hmm.
the best way I overcome it is through the prayer and through knowing that I'm making decisions. I'm making quick decisions based upon the information that I have, and I'm confident I'm going to walk boldly,
mm-hmm.
just one step at a time. Just like at night when we're driving with the headlights,
mm-hmm.
you can't see all the way to California from New York, but you can see a couple car lengths ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And all you need to do is just focus on that couple car lengths ahead,
mm-hmm.
and you'll make it to wherever you're going eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But if you try, all you can do is focus on that little bit, and that's all we can do. I'd probably be scared to death if I could see a couple years ahead because I'm not at that level where I could understand the decisions that I'll be making 2 years from now.
Yeah, yeah.
I can only do the best I know right now.
Mm-hmm.
So doubt and fear, you gotta work those muscles to be able to overcome them.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna, if you're not putting yourself in some fearful situations or some uncomfortable situations, you're probably not pushing your full potential.
Mm-hmm. Boy, that's so true. Well, how important is forgiveness? I know it's sometimes hard to forgive those who upset, offend, and oppose
mm-hmm.
you. How important is it to forgive those people?
The person that's hurt the most by not forgiving is you, me. If I'm willing to hold that energy and not forgive somebody and hold that inside, I'm the one, because they're living their life. They have no clue. And it's only self-limiting to have that. It's one of the most important things I feel I had to overcome. How could my family do the things they did? But guess what? In reflection, I can look back and say they did the best they could with the time and place they were.
Yeah.
No one was out to get me. No one was out to get you. People make decisions. They did the best they could, or the best they were able to at that particular time. And they probably made some wrong choices, just as I make wrong choices.
It's interesting if you think that everybody's along a different path, and it's hard to make a decision about the goodness or badness of their actions unless you walk a mile in their shoes.
Exactly.
Joy is an important thing in people's lives. Do you experience service to others as a source of joy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the most fulfilling thing in my life is to go. I speak at churches. I speak at events. I went to an event not too long ago. I told you about my car wreck. Well, there's an organization called Prelude. Forgot what all the letters stand for, but it's basically for people who have gone through head trauma, severe head trauma.
Yeah.
And I went there and spoke and gave my 5-step success magnet system story as well as my story of the car wreck and able to overcome it without giving them sense of false hope, because there are people in there that it brought tears to my eyes immediately because I remembered. I'd sort of blocked it out, but I walked with a walker like old people walk with.
Yeah.
And to see these young kids in that position still, it reminded me of how thankful and blessed I am, but it also put things in perspective of, I'm not going to give these people false hope. I don't know what their circumstances are. I don't know how I was able to but at least give them some type of hope that they can take steps to be a little better tomorrow than they are today. That's basically what I'm sharing with them.
Well, you've had some really low points in your life, Tom. When was the lowest point in your life, and how did you manage to change your life path to win a victory over the obstacles you were facing at that time?
Yeah. Wow, the lowest point. That's a good question.
You've had some pretty low ones.
Yeah. Well,
what was the lowest one?
Well, here's one that is it's a weird one. I was the #1 honor graduate in boot camp. I had 3 meritorious promotions in 4 years. I was the man. I was like the kid on the block. I was the epitome of a Marine. And I was actually up for what's called MESEP, Marine Enlisted Commissioning Program. They were going to take me out of the enlisted, put me in college, and come back as an officer. At the same time, we had just been transferred from Cherry Point, North Carolina to Yuma, Arizona. Little did we know there had been a circumstance there with hazing. And this is right around the time of the movie with Tom Cruise, A Few Good Men and all that.
Yeah.
So hazing is, like fraternities do, all that fun stuff. But little did we know there had been an event that occurred. They basically said the next time something occurs like this, we're going to set a precedent. We didn't know this, but we get there, and we picked up a couple deadbeats that got passed over to our platoon, and everyone wanted to get this one kid. I wasn't for that stuff. I was not there, but basically I was there to make sure it didn't get out of hand. But make a long story short, I made sure it didn't get out of hand, but everybody that was there was busted, including myself. So here I went in the matter of one sentence from being the top person in that whole base, basically, to being demoted. So internally, to be at the top of your game and then have the carpet pulled out from under you, have the package ripped up, was probably the toughest point in my life. Because I knew I did good. I knew that I had physically stopped this from getting anywhere it shouldn't have been. But I also chose to be there. So I own the fact that I was there, yes. And I also own the fact that I did make sure that this kid didn't get harmed in any way. But I chose to be there. So by choosing to be there, I chose to be demoted. And it took me a long time to own that.
Yeah.
So that was the lowest point. But I was able to overcome it and end up getting meritoriously promoted once again. Because, it took me a couple months to work through that. But eventually I said, okay, it is what it is. There's nothing. I was worrying about it, and then I recognized there's nothing I can do about it other than be the best that I can today. And I decided to be the best I could, and I ended up getting promoted again.
Wow.
After that.
Boy, that's determination.
Yeah.
Was there anyone that helped give you the willpower to change things in your life for the better when you're going through all those low points in your life?
Oh, boy. Books, tapes, mentors, and my grandfather. My grandfather was probably the stable rock that I had in the chaos as a child. My mother was 17, so he was at an age where people his age were having kids, you know. But through all the adversity and stuff, I lived with him a lot, and he owned a business, a hardwood flooring business. And I would go when I was about 9 years old with him to some jobs to lay some hardwood floor. And he taught me, you know, he's like, "Oh, Tom, go clean that room up we were just in," and blah, blah, blah. So I'd clean the room, and he's like, "Oh, okay, everything's good, but you didn't get this room over here." I said, and I called him Papa. I said, "Papa, we weren't even in that room." So exactly, Tom, the lesson in life is leave the place better than when you got here. And whew, man, if we could all do that, leave this place better than when we got here, I think that pretty much sums it up.
Boy, that's so true, isn't it? Well, how important was it to believe your financial dreams would eventually come reality?
Financial dreams, and here's the thing, through all that adversity and through all the poverty as a child, there was a lot of brainwashing as far as, you know, what people who were wealthy did, you know, and how they did people wrong, and all the normal stuff that people hear, the money doesn't grow on trees and all the other negative stuff. But knowing, just faith in the law of sowing and reaping, the law of cause and effect, knowing that if you're able to contribute value, you will be compensated. And if you're doing the best that you can, just like in the Marine Corps, when I chose, hey, just do the best I can with circumstances are the way they are, but if I continue to provide value, I'll be rewarded. I was rewarded with promotions and such. Well, in the free world, the more value you're able to contribute to more people, you'll be rewarded. It's just a matter of how much value you're providing. And you can do a check by taking a look at your bank account. That will tell you exactly how much value you're providing people at this particular point in time. That doesn't mean you can't change it or improve it, but recognize where your starting point is, and then how can you contribute more value. There's a quote by Zig Ziglar that says, basically, all your dreams can come true if you help, by the amount of people you help their dreams come true.
If you help enough people get what they want, then they help you get what you want.
That's it.
Yeah, boy, that's so true. How important is it to know exactly how much money you want to have in your bank account and by what date?
Setting parameters like that are pretty important, I feel, because just saying I want a lot, you know, and not putting a time frame on it doesn't quantify it and doesn't give it the proper energy to create that or manifest it. So I think picking an exact figure and a time frame is one of the smart things you could choose to do. I want X amount. Pick whatever X is for you, because it's all relative. What's a lot to me is pennies to others, and vice versa. So what is your X that you want, and by when do you want it, and how are you going to do that? Because just by stating it, you better have a plan. Okay, how am I going to do that? I'm going to provide value. Okay, who are you going to provide value to? Pick that crowd. And what am I going to provide that is a value that they're willing to part with their hard-earned or with their finances to invest in?
Well, you know, that's so true. Well, what is your definition of heroism?
Heroism. My definition of heroism is, I think going back to that other statement I made, someone who is doing the best that they can and has a goal and is committed to being better tomorrow than they are today. I feel that's a hero. Kind of like the definition of a goal by Earl Nightingale was the pursuit, I'm drawing a blank on this one.
Pursuit of a worthy ideal.
Yeah, the pursuit of a worthy goal or idea. So anyone who's in high school who's going to class and doing their homework is a success.
You bet.
Because they're pursuing that worthy goal or ideal. So a hero, as long as someone is committed to being better tomorrow than they are today, in my mind, that's a hero.
Well, did you ever create a secret hero in your mind that helped you deal with life's difficulties, especially when you're going through all the stuff with your family? I know I created one. Did you?
I had a period when I was younger, and I named myself like Batman, Superman, and my name was like 10 superheroes in a row. And
wow.
I wanted everyone to call me that. So I tried being that, but I love like the American Legion cartoons and things like that. And I would always have little toys and create conversations with some of these superheroes, and kind of what I explained about what would your mentor do. I would kind of think, oh, what would Superman or what would Batman do in this type of scenario, and have fun with it as a kid, but also there would be some wisdom, because I feel in some of those things there was some wise choices being made. You know, if it was a superhero that was being portrayed, normally they were for good, and they were doing and making good choices.
Well, what were the qualities or attributes of those heroes that you selected that helped you while you were growing up?
Helping others, being a servant, and trying to, I recall them conversing and talking about decisions. How are we going to do that? So I think proper decision making.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, who are the heroes in your life now?
Right now, a lot of heroes that I'm fortunate to be working with. I mean, I'm actually working with some of my heroes, the people that I looked up to and still look up to. Best-selling author Jeffrey Gitomer, I work with on a regular basis. He's a hero. He has some certain qualities that I'm looking to emulate. The person I'm working with right here in his office, Mike Filsame. You've met Mike, and just the attributes that he has in assisting others in accomplishing their dreams and goals. Mm-hmm. Jim Kelly, the NFL Hall of Fame quarterback. I'm the president of a company formed with him to see the life of faith and just how to truly overcome adversity. The adversity that I've stated are nothing compared to Jim's story. And actually, I did interview him, and you can see that at jimkellylive.com. And he talks in depth about a lot of adversity and how he was able to overcome it. So seeing from someone who puts my adversities to shame as far as on a scale, and here's the fun part about that, it's not a competition. Everybody has their own. It's all relative, but how are you dealing with it? How am I dealing with it? Is all that really matters. Yeah. Doesn't matter how anybody else deals with it, wrong or right. Yeah. How are you dealing with it, and how can you be better?
Mm-hmm. Well, how important is it to have trusted friends or a mastermind group to bounce your ideas off of?
Oh, mastermind is extremely vital to success. I talked about Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly, in his Hall of Fame induction speech, didn't get up there and flex his arms and say, hey, I'm Jim Kelly, I made it to the NFL, I deserved it. He gave credit where credit was due. He gave credit to his coaching staff. He gave credit to his linemen. He gave credit to his teammates, his receivers who were able to run the routes and catch the balls, his running backs. So in life, you need to have your team. And one of the lessons I learned in studying all these success things, one of the things I learned at an early age studying it was how to become a self-made millionaire. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a total fallacy. I think it probably can be done, but it probably takes 10 times longer than if you were to choose to be a team millionaire. Mm-hmm. How can you assemble the proper team that can assist you in accomplishing your goals much more quickly?
Mm-hmm. Well, how does the mastermind team make a positive difference in your life?
Oh, the mastermind is there to help you in times of difficulty, to overcome adversity, and also pushes you and holds you accountable with some of the goals and strides that you're taking to achieve your goals.
Mm-hmm. Well, who do you feel the real heroes in our society today are not getting the recognition and rewards they deserve?
Oh, boy. The heroes, I mean, I don't know, the firemen, the police, the teachers, all those people are creating so much impact. The military, and in some cases, taking a lot of heat, yet they're protecting the freedoms that we embrace, and also are teaching the kids the proper things, whether it's teachers, whether it's firemen, whether it's police officers. Those people, I feel, are a little underappreciated. To answer that question.
Mm-hmm. Well, why are heroes so important in the lives of young people?
Heroes give hope. I think people, especially children, need hope. Especially in my circumstances, reflecting on my childhood, I needed some hope. Is this how it's going to be? Is this what? But as a child, you don't know any better. You only know the circumstances that you're surrounded by. So I thought everybody was going through the difficulties I had until I reached a point where I thought I was the only one who thought these circumstances were occurring to. But I feel hope is something that society as a whole needs.
Boy, that's so true. Well, what are the things that parents can do that will help their children realize that they too can be heroes and make a positive impact on the lives of others?
Exposing them to the proper things. Not letting them watch the movies that have all the violence and the bad things occurring, the TV programs, same thing, but exposing them to the empowering books, the empowering audios and videos, and that can show them heroes, that can give them hope and give them people and things to aspire and look up to.
Well, how do people become heroes?
By choice, choosing to build a foundation of ethics, honesty, belief, faith, and to work. There's a quote. I'll see if I can get this right. I'm going to improve myself for you. I love you so much that I'm going to improve myself. To just choose to be the best you that you can be, I think is all it takes to be a hero.
Mm-hmm. You know, that's funny, too. I've asked a lot of the other heroes what would they do to make the world a better place, and they said that they would start with themselves first.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, how does it feel to be recognized as an Internet hero, Tom?
Humbling. I mean, I'm just a normal person, and the funny part is dealing with all these other people. I've been able to be okay with that because they're all normal people too. Mm-hmm. You know, whether it's Jim Kelly, whether it's Jeffrey Gitomer, they're just doing the best they can with what they know how. Yeah. And I feel, you know, that's all I'm doing, and that's all anybody that's listening to this is doing.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Why do you think you were selected for this unique honor?
By choosing to be in the game. Just by choosing to attend seminars, your life and lives can and will and have been changed. By getting in the game and going out and being, you know, with other people who are accomplishing great things. Mm-hmm. That's the simple answer.
Mm-hmm. Well, how being recognized as an Internet hero changed your life?
It hopefully will fulfill my burning desire, which is to assist the people in understanding their steps that you can take today to achieve your dreams and goals. Mm-hmm. Hopefully my story has been inspirational to someone, whether they've gone through similar circumstances or have heard something in my story that will trigger them to strengthen their power of choice muscles and their decisive muscles and willingness to take action. Mm-hmm.
Well, how are you making the world a better place?
I think by choosing to be in the game and by choosing to put this energy out and choosing to tell my story and as you heard, choosing to tell some situations that some people may feel uncomfortable. That goes back to the uncomfortability. I think some people would, actually some people have asked me, Tom, why do you tell that story? Why'd you tell about your wife? Why'd you tell about the car wreck? Because I feel it's a story that needs to be told because someone out there needs to hear it. And I hope, my prayer is that it is out there and is going to open up someone's heart.
Well, do you have any good solutions to the problems facing society, especially racism, child and spousal abuse, and violence among young people?
Yeah, I think that goes right back to the similar thing that other heroes have told you. Start with yourself. There's nothing we can do. Not one thing can I change in another person. I can only change things in me. I can only choose within the sphere of influence I have is through me. If I can be that lighthouse that's out there making the right moves, making the right choices, and setting an example, that's the best that I can do. And if everyone were to take that responsibility and choose to set an example in their own sphere, that would solve all, if not most, if not all, of the problems.
Boy, isn't that true? Well, if you had 3 wishes for your life in the world that would come true instantly, what would they be?
3 wishes that would come through instantly. Boy.
And you can't have any more wishes.
Yeah, that's
3's all you get.
Man, I wish that everyone could have the inner peace that I'm searching for, or at least make the choice to begin that journey of inner peace, and have the faith, knowing that everything does work for good, and to boldly live the life to fulfill the destiny that they each have. That I think is I see a lot of people living half lives and not walking sheepishly forward instead of boldly forward in their lives. I think that would be a tremendous thing to witness.
Boy, wouldn't that be something if everybody did that? Live their lives as heroes, taking anything the world dishes out and going back for more.
Right.
Well, what do you think about the In Search of Heroes program and its impact on youth, parents, and business people?
I was real excited to hear about it, March of last year, March of 2005, when you first told me about it. And I was really excited to hear that you were putting these things together for years. And the wisdom that's going to be shared, I think, is going to dramatically impact people's lives, similar to, when Napoleon Hill studied all of the top experts of the early 1900s. I think the wisdom that you have captured and that you're able and willing to share with the youth and with society as a whole will positively impact future generations.
Boy, that's so true. Every time I go back and listen to people's interviews, I'm just astounded at the brilliance and just the incredible knowledge and just the hope that they share and the things that they had to say. Just like yours.
Yeah, well, cool. I appreciate that.
Well, you know, Tom, I know you're extremely busy, and I just really appreciate your time and doing this interview. I know it's inspiring to anybody that's had tremendous trials and tribulations. I had no idea that you'd had that head trauma and that you'd come from a difficult family life. It's just astounding to meet somebody that's had that near-death experience and actually realize that God had more for him to do and actually wanted to come back.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm just happy to be here for sure, and hopefully I'm fulfilling all the things that we've been talking. My goal is to be congruent with what I've shared with you today and to walk boldly as if, I'm going to live to 110, but I may end up going tomorrow.
Yeah, that's
true. At the same time.
Yeah. Second by second, that's the thing I learned. Who would have imagined that, a child of 8 years old or a 6-month-old baby would die when they have the full future ahead of them, and God decides to take them at an early age.
Yep.
And to think that we have one more second that's guaranteed, that's sort of a foolhardy thought process.
I agree. I agree.
Love what you had to say about doing the best you possibly can every second that you're alive. That's just really great advice.
Yep.
Well, again, Tom, thank you so much. That's just really an astounding story. I thought that I'd heard some just amazing ones. I just did Len Thurman's Heroes interview at the big seminar, and I just posted that today, and I didn't think I would hear any interviews that could top that one, but boy, your near-death experience definitely takes everything to a new level.
All right, I appreciate it.
So thanks again.
Awesome. Thanks for the interview, man. I appreciate it.
Okay, bye.